let's talk about this though, because again, I don't want to try to beat a dead horse too much here, but the debate has continued as it always does this time of year, and this is dominance that, to your point, Brandon, we have never seen, at least not in my lifetime, but I can remember, in the modern era of this sport or in these series here. I think you have to go all the way back to Sam Ard in the early to mid 80s in the what's now the Xfinity Series. Greg Biffle obviously set that record in the Truck Series, and people will point out he did not win the championship that year, but I think that when you look at his results relative to, I believe it was Jack Sprague in 99, if I remember off the top of my head, don't quote me on that 100%, but goes back to Ryan Newman and Jimmy Johnson in that debate, for Rookie of the Year, and then the next year Ryan Newman versus Matt Kenseth in the conversation for the championship, and Newman winning 8 races and Kenseth only winning 1, but Newman being so up and down and Kenseth being so consistent. I understand that having the most wins, I'm not saying I want the driver with the most wins to be the champion automatically. If I wanted that, I would want the medal system that F1 did introduce. People might forget this, but they, after Lewis Hamilton passed Timo Glock to win the 2008 championship, Felipe Massa won his home race in Brazil. Everybody thought he was going to be world champion for about 30 seconds, and then Hamilton took it from him at the last moment. And Bernie Ecclestone didn't like that. So what did he do? He said, we're instituting a medal system for 2009. Whoever has the most wins is just going to be the champion.
That worked well.
The backlash was so universal from guys like Lewis Hamilton, from other greats like Michael Schumacher, who said it's a shame to see what's happening to this great sport, that they dropped. I don't even know if it lasted a week. They dropped it within days of the announcement and kept the same point system for one more year. But then what did they do? They revised the point system for 2010. Instead of 10 wins or 10 points for a win and 8 points for second, now it was 25 points for a win and 18 points for second. So the gap from first to second in terms of how much a win meant means a little bit more in the new system than it did 2009 and before in Formula One racing. And that is, and listen, I like the Lafferty system. I think the Lafferty system did a pretty good job for the quarter century plus that it was around in determining the most deserving champion. But one of the areas where it was flawed was it did not award enough points, in my opinion, over second versus third versus fourth and so on and so forth for winning a race. And so I'm not saying I want the Lafferty system back. I'm just saying I want a 36 race system that is indicative of full season performance rather than what we might have this year. Because think about this, Brandon. Think about where the finale is for one more year. We're going to Phoenix. What happens if we get an overtime restart and Corey Heim lines up on the front row or Connor Zilisch lines up on the front row and they are 8 wide going through the dog leg into turn 1 and somebody gets turned, or they are 8 wide coming back around to get the white flag and then somebody spins in the back of the pack and it's a big accident. They have no choice but to throw a caution and freeze the field. And we get a situation like you mentioned it tonight, Brandon, Austin Hill and Jeb Burton, and it being razor close on video and trying to determine from what angle do you see, like that is I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that both of those drivers go out and dominate. And like I said last week, they win these races by 10 seconds each. And it's just as dominant as they've been all year.
NASCAR better hope it doesn't happen.
It leaves the possibility open that it could happen. And that's why I don't like this system. And I cannot believe that we are going to get to Phoenix in a few weeks, and we could very well put these seasons that we're having here on the line on a restart like that. And it could alter who goes down in the history books and who's remembered as the champion of these series for this year. And by the way, I've seen some people say this as well, and I'm not going to go this far to openly hope that it happens either, but I had a friend tell me today, I'm turning full heel. I hope they both lose these championships because that's the only thing that's going to wake NASCAR up.
That's what I'm saying, Ben. That's what I said last year too.
I'll tell you this. I don't wish it on them at all, but if that happens, I hope that it happens in the stupidest way imaginable.
Yeah, it's got to be a disgrace. I mean, it's got to be just
now. Yeah, because if they listen, if they finish second, if it's like they're 3 or 4 car lengths short, they finish second to, I don't know. I'm just Grant Enfinger and Sammy Smith, right? I'll just pick a couple of names off there, or Let me just make sure. They're still in. I know Sammy is obviously, yes, Grant Empinger's the 7th seed right now with Chandler Smith and Jake Garcia that have been eliminated. So those two drivers could still, in theory, walk away with championships this year. Mm-hmm. Nothing against those two. I think we can all look objectively at the seasons they've had and said, yeah, they have not been as impressive as, even close to as impressive as Corey Heim and Connor Zilisch have been. But if they beat them in that one race at Phoenix and those guys come across the line in second, it leaves the door open for the argument to be, well, they just didn't maximize their opportunity when it mattered the most. When the lights were the brightest, they came up short. And that's what happened to the 2007 Patriots in that Super Bowl against the New York Giants. And that is totally an apples to apples comparison, isn't it, Brandon?
Not quite. I really don't think it is. But I agree with you there. And I think I said it last year too. Don't quote me, but I believe before the last championships, we also brought the same thing. The best thing if you're an advocate for a 36 race point system, the best thing that could happen is NASCAR be embarrassed the most in the sports world by their champions. And if you had a case where it's just the silliest of circumstances, where Connor Zilisch, Corey Heim, and who's the champion elect of the Cup Series right now?
It's not as clear. I guess maybe
it's really not. No.
Yeah, I guess Denny might have the most wins.
It's got
is up there now too as well. Obviously, he's
right. But
yeah.
Other than that, it's got to be 2020 Kevin Harvick not winning the championship on steroids. It's got to be just the dumbest 8 wide double overtime deluxe Krabby Patty. You stack all the things on it and make it where any remote sports fan at all, whether you're a motorsports fan or you like field hockey only, in the Ivy League, I don't know. And you got to be able to look at that face value and say, yeah, that is bogus. That is silly. That's not a sport. That is the most contrived piece of nonsense I've ever seen. How can you call them a champion? It's got to be that level of chaos. And Phoenix can provide us that. That dog leg, I'm going to put on my fake spectacles here. 8 wide overtime restart could certainly not out of the question. We've seen it before, and I think 2 years ago I was just so upset about it in the chat with you and everybody else about the Craftsman Truck Series championship and how awful that was. Just having to, it got to the point where like you wanted to just turn it off. Like, oh, forget it. Like, what are we doing? What are we even doing here? And then the fact that the suits that be can come back days later and say like, we like what we're seeing, or this is justified, or this is exactly what this is designed to do. No, you're blowing smoke. No, it's not. Like that, and it's just a wash and repeat cycle. But you've got, again, final point, you've got to have something so catastrophic happen. And I mean this with all love. You got to have something so catastrophic happen that they have to wake up and say, look, we are being embarrassed. We're making complete fools of ourselves to keep it this way.
All right. I was not going to do this, but just put this quick graphic together. Because the conversation came up again this week, like I was saying, like it always does. John from Beyond tweeting this to me in conversation when I said sometimes a champion is so obvious that the system shouldn't matter. We should know who goes down in history as the best driver over that season. And he says sometimes the champion is obvious until they lose. One big loss. First of all, can I just say, how did you not come up with the headline "one giant loss" there? I mean, it's sitting right there, right?
Right. Yeah.
Who didn't? There was no copy editor or proofreader that looked at that and said, you know what would really be a great headline after this Super Bowl? One giant loss. Nobody thought of that.
Come on, Ben. It's not the New York Times. We're not expecting a miracle here. I mean, what is it? Proto Sports? Who is that? I don't know. Projo Sports. I've never heard of them. No offense to Projo Sports, but never heard of them.
This is the argument. This is the absolute, with all due respect, if you've had a conversation with me before, this is the argument that grinds my gears the most. And I quoted this and said, listen, I'm done with the 2007 Patriots argument because.
Which was a great Super Bowl, by the way. Enjoyed that.
Yeah, folks up here maybe didn't as much, but it was great for the people in East Rutherford, New Jersey, and New York City for sure. Certainly better than what they're getting right now in New York with their football teams. But that's beside the point. The point that I want to make here is you want to make that comparison. And I said it on Twitter this week. It's not apples and oranges even, because at least those are both fruits. This is apples and chocolate chip Pop-Tarts. Okay, these are so radically different. Those things are both foods. These things are both sports. That is where the similarities end, because the Super Bowl features only two teams on the field at once. You don't have somebody from the Cleveland Browns or the New York Jets or the Philadelphia Eagles or the Arizona Cardinals or the Carolina Panthers fill in your favorite sports team here. You're not going to have one of them come out and sack Tom Brady and completely alter the outcome of the game. Or you're not going to have Eli Manning's not going to throw a pass to, I don't know, Terrell Owens, and that's going to be what wins the New York Giants the game, or what. Like it's just such a nonsensical comparison to make, because there are only
it's lazy for one thing
on the field at once. It is lazy, and that's the comparison here. Because in NASCAR, you have everybody competing on the same track at once, and I'll say it again. This is what would have to happen if they just finish second. You're going to be able to say, well, you know, they choked when the lights were the brightest. What happens if we get a Tim Schendel, Kyle Busch situation? You know, Tim Schendel blows a tire or whatever, he starts slowing, and Kyle Busch runs into the back of him. Or what happened similarly with David Starr and Noah Gragson at Homestead a few years back. What if that happens to Connor Zilisch on Saturday night at Phoenix, or Saturday evening? What if Corey Heim loses an engine? What if he blows a motor through no fault of his own?
His team didn't put the engine together when the lights were the brightest.
I guess.
Too bad, so sad.
That's not that. I don't think that should cost you a championship.
No, your season as a whole.
Racing is a chaotic sport. I get that, but you know, man, I feel like the tide is turning, and I was very encouraged. And I got to give him credit where it's due. He and I have not agreed on much over the years. I've taken some issue with some of the things he said, but I got to give Pete Pistone a lot of credit, because I did catch a little bit of the morning drive last week, and they were talking about, you know, the season the Butterbean Queen has had, and you know, saying, well, you know, there's not going to be a ton of drama for the championship, but this is the ongoing debate of which one would you rather have. And this is what Pete said, that I had to go back and replay it to make sure I heard it right. Pete said, I can make an argument for and against both sides. Now, like I said in my commentary on my channel this past week, I'm under no illusion that we fully won Pete Pistone over, and he's now going to join Mark Martin on the crusade for arguing for a full season championship format, 36 races. But I can understand arguments for both sides over, well, you know, guys, you got to move on. You really got to get to some sort of group to help you accept the fact that it's not going anywhere, nor should it. That is huge. That's a massive shift, if you ask me. And I think he's far from the only one that started to feel similarly. Brandon, you brought up a Dale Jr. download. He said there was one person in that committee meeting room or whatever at the start of the season that was arguing 36. Like, some people said we need tweaks. Some people were probably arguing for the 10-race chase. I know AJ Allmendinger was on Door Bumper Clear and was reminiscing about how he had a really good run at Homestead in 2011 and got a front row seat to watch Tony and Carl fight for the championship. And I understand that. And you know, listen, man, I used to say I would compromise and take that over what we have now. But I think what we've seen and what we saw in the Cup race, particularly yesterday evening, it's just gotten to a point where I feel like I am more and more of the opinion that it's all 36 or bust.
Yeah.
Because I just cannot look at the seasons that Connor Zilisch and Corey Heim and Butterbean Queen in ARCA have had. And of course, Butterbean has the benefit of a full season championship. So all he had to do was, I kept saying he had to take the green flag. He didn't even have to do that. He just had to take a lap in practice to get the 50-point bonus. And then he was set. And a much deserved championship for him. I must say, very glad that ARCA has not adopted a similar system. But man, if you thought it was bad when Joey Logano, who again still championship eligible,
he's still tracking. He's tracking. Yeah,
it could happen.
No penalties coming out.
man, if you thought it was bad last year when he won the championship with an average finish of 17.1 in the Cup Series, I mean, I am prepared for Twitter to burn to the ground if Corey Heim does not, or Connor Zilisch, if either one of them.
And good, they should.
And, you know, I said earlier this week they've got a 25% chance. I know it's more than a 25% chance, all right? I know how, I didn't major in statistics, but I know that they're going to be in the championship 4, and they'll have a slightly better than 25% chance, 25% odds going in with how they've been running this year. But, man, this sport is unpredictable sometimes. You just never know. Something stupid might happen that ruins your day if it's out of your control. And that's why, again, I think there's a growing consensus. Apologies if you can hear that. My coworker scanner's going off for some reason like it usually does. But, man, there's a growing consensus that it cannot be one race. Whatever we do next year, and again, I will continue to say that I am now fully more and more in support of 36 or bust, but it cannot just come down to one race. And I think that consensus is becoming more and more clear as we draw closer to this season and see more of the shenanigans unfolding in these playoffs.
It's really remarkable how much the rhetoric has changed in just a 12-month span. And I believe one of those voices that Dale Jr. was talking about was Jeff Gluck. I believe that was one of the ones that had kind of their opinion had swayed from one focus group or whatever they call it, the circle, whatever, from the beginning of the
is the term that they're
but beginning of the year till now.